everyone. Welcome to Growth Unplugged, another episode where you learn about manufacturing. I'm Nikhil Joshi, your podcast host from Sneak Solutions. With me on the episode is Raj Aitha. He is Senior Director, Enterprise Applications, Platform and Services at American Woodmark. American Woodmark is a manufacturing company. And welcome, Raj, to the show.
Thank you, Nikhil.
Raj, we'll start by getting a sense of your role at American Woodmark and how you got into this space. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what do you do there?
Sure. So currently, I'm a senior director for enterprise apps at American Woodmark. I lead the strategic technology initiatives that focus on the ERP transformation, landscape optimizing processes, and reducing the technical debt. That's my core day-to-day job.
For somebody who's never been into manufacturing, would you introduce them to what American Woodmark does and what do you make?
So we make cabinets, kitchen, bath. We work with major builders in entire United States. We also work with Home Depot and Lowe's, where you can go on the shelf and pick a cabinet to remodel your bath or kitchen. That's what we do, cabinets all day.
Awesome. I want to try and understand what's something about your job that might surprise someone who's never worked in manufacturing.
Manufacturing currently is increasingly focused on digital transformation to address some of the core challenges today. As it is the heart in the digital transformation, it's all about efficiency, right? Manufacturing is all about efficiency, quality, create more responsive and adaptable production environments. That's something that's a very crucial for the industry right now. Digital technology is not just about throwing away the old system and bringing the new system in. There is a lot of intricacies that need to be addressed or taken care of. People don't even get into when we say manufacturing.
If I have to get back everything that we see in our houses, which is related to wood, that I can go and buy at a Home Depot or Lowe's, the products that we see there and buy is what you manufacture. Now, how are these manufactured? What's the overall way to manufacture them? The sense most of them have in mind is it's a myth, like it's a dirty factory, wood is hard, etc. Tell us a little bit about that. Is it still like how it used to be 50, 60 years ago?
It's partly that way and it's partly not that way. I mean, if you look at the current industry trends for manufacturing operations has drastically changed. Right now you can see robots doing a lot of stuff, a lot of automation happening on the shop floor. So it's not that, but there are places in the plant that are still like that. So right now we are into bringing a lot of automation where machines doing a lot of work versus people cutting the wood, laminating the wood, painting the wood. Yes, there are still some of that. Most of them, we are at a point investing a lot of automation into the manufacturing operations. That has completely changed how the plants used to look from 4 or 5 decades ago to now.
So, for everybody listening, Rajan, many of them may not know this, but I mean, we keep hearing this word digital transformation, and it seems like it's awfully used a lot in manufacturing. How do you define it? What is it?
Again, I'll go back to my original statement, right? It's all about improving the performance, efficiency, improving the quality of the product, and creating more responsive and adaptable production environments. That's the digital transformation. This is crucial because to be competitive in the global market, manufacturers needs to produce goods faster with fewer resources, often keeping the cost low and remain competitive.
From a US context, how is this helping US manufacturing? We all want to become more efficient, and I'm sure other countries are also adopting digital transformation all across the world. Can you extend that and tell me how particularly it would help US manufacturing?
Here's a good thing, right? Do you know why manufacturing went off to China or offshore?
Uh,
Right. I mean, the main reason is cost, right? The
Yeah.
cost to produce goods locally is heavy than compared to whether you produce in China or Taiwan or India or Vietnamese. I think the digital transformation and automation will really help to going back to my earlier point, right? Lower cost, remain competitive. That's what it's going to benefit. And delivering a higher quality product. That's the big difference, right? When your cost of production is low, you can bring more manufacturing back to the country more jobs are created, we can deliver more products, we can deliver the more high quality product and put it in the customer hands.
It's interesting to see when you talk on that subject, because in the past we had like this whole gush towards a globalized economy where I thought we would have pockets. The cheap stuff will always be made where the labor is short, and just the most expensive stuff would probably stay in America. I think we lived in a world like that, but seems like customers are changing where people don't want the same thing a lot. They want many things, but in smaller lots, which I think just makes that whole arbitrage that we used to see in the past. Because of cost, it would go to another country. If everything is the same, right? Like people is pretty much the biggest differentiator in terms of cost between a US and a different market. Is that true?
If you look at manufacturing industry, the biggest overhead is people. If you are at least automating the most repetitive processes, now your overhead is going to go down and your profitability margins are high. So you don't need to go and look out for other places to produce. As long as you can keep your profit margins, you can still produce the product in US.
Awesome. So, what I'm understanding there is that we have the opportunity using digital transformation to increase productivity per person via automation significantly. Those cost advantages that you would pretty much get in another country, you at least basically get the same here. Would that be a fair statement? Awesome.
Again, you can increase time to market, right? The time in which you can put your product in customer hands.
Yeah, I always felt that if you manufacture closer to the demand, it's always going to be good because your customer is closer to you. You can listen to them and innovate, as you put it rightly, that you can bring newer products to them
Right.
faster. But I think that whole space of innovation is so deep, actually. Here where people are very innovative, they can come up with new things, and if we could just produce it right then and there and deliver it to the customer, gives everyone a great experience. I have seen that. I've gone to Home Depot or Lowe's looking for some item, and I just wish we had a better experience getting some of the things that we need for our house. I want to extend this, right? Like when we go there, at least my personal experience has been, I try to find, more designs, like, or more variety. At least it's my personal. I wish there was more. If I was buying a dining table, a square versus a round dining table, and a round dining table, I want multiple colors. I wish there was more. So how are you making that happen? Can you talk a little bit about that?
The earlier statement that you made, right? I think being close to the customer, understanding customer choices, the feedback that we get from our marketing, sales, taking that back into your manufacturing lines and having close to the customer, you can respond pretty quick.
Yeah.
So going back to your earlier point, right, that's the other benefit. You're responding to your customer needs as quickly as possible. You're not dependent on supply chain challenges, especially if you're working with China or India. You have seen now the uncertainty in the global markets right now, with oil prices, everything being increased. So we were able to avoid those external uncontrollable situations by staying more close to the customer, serving better and improved customer experience.
I can definitely say that there are insane amount of jobs available in manufacturing if you got the skills. But look at it from a people dimension, Raj. I want to bring in your experience into the conversation that changing people is hard. It's everybody's experience. If you're going on this whole digital transformation journey, it's often harder actually than changing tech. You are responsible for modernizing and changing tech there. So in your experience, how do you get people to embrace digital transformation, especially with AI, etc., coming in and putting different dimensions that maybe my job is going to go? Tell us a little bit about what you are doing to get people embrace digital transformation.
It's a tough problem to solve. Not only just digital transformation, we as a humans are wired ourselves. The change is not easy. Even for us to change a small habit, I was reading this book and it has a quote saying that for a small habit to change, you have to follow that for 21 days. Adopt that and make it part of your day to day life, right? I'll take that as a basis every time when I'm thinking about a digital transformation and change. For a small habit, if you're taking 21 days, you have people who are sitting in that roles doing the same thing from last 20-25 years, using those applications and technologies. Basically, the challenge is you are asking them to change fundamentally how they have been operating from last 25. days. So as long as you start slow and show them the wins and how it's going to make their processes and their day-to-day job better, that's one of the way to win people hearts in the transformation. The customers that I worked with, even in Woodmark, the mental model was always start small, show the wins, win people hearts, and then go big, or then go step by step. So that's one of the approach that I have seen always worked pretty well in my past life. Once people start to see the results, gain confidence, you don't need to insist on change. It will fall through automatically. It's just that you need to instill that confidence in them, saying that yes, the change is for better.
Does it sometimes happen, Raj, that too much time passes by instilling that confidence, doing small pilots, etc.? It's a very slow way to do it. If you're seeing those wins, but still really not seeing the needle move, what, in your experience, management or manufacturers need to do where everybody would feel the needle is moving?
It all depends upon the customer, right? What their internal resources are, what their internal capabilities are. Like, I mean, I've been to some of the manufacturing firms where their IT workshops, their IT shops are pretty well established, where they can handle a complex change in a shorter time frame. There are times where I've been to manufacturing firms who try to do that without having a proper resources, or not even thinking about the amount of change as an organization that they can take. What is their appetite, right? It all depends upon the appetite of change that the organization can consume. It's not like one size fits all. It's, as a leader, you need to determine and understand what is the appetite of change that we as an organization can take with the resources and capabilities that we have both internally and externally.
I find decision making and leadership a very interesting subject whenever we are talking digital transformation, change management. What is the one thing that you have seen the leadership, the management did that was really necessary for things to start changing?
One of the biggest thing I would say what we are doing right now is a three in a box approach, right? It's a wonderful approach that we started implementing and executing. You have a business person on the table, and you have an IT person on the table, and you have an external service provider who's providing the service at the table. Now you're all working together as a three in a box and trying to solve a problem, versus you as an IT trying to solve the problem, not having business at the table, and not having an understanding of what really happens on the shop floor from a process standpoint. Or now you don't have a partner in place who can really guide you and provide that consultative advice on how industry has been doing this. Bringing those three together, I think it's reducing the cycle times. When I say about the cycle times, is you don't need to go back again and again and redesign or revise your processes. Now you're all three are together at the table. Your decision making process is faster. You involve all the key stakeholders. It's not that people feel, oh, you have designed this process on your own and not understanding what really happens on my side of the world. So all that is cut short when you have all three people at the table.
So, three in a box approach, interesting. I really liked what you said that even the service provider is as important, because as a manufacturer, then you're almost treating them as your extension in a way. That's the only way a three in a box approach could work.
Yeah, that, I always say they are partners.
Awesome.
We're all
Awesome.
in this together.
So, if we deep dive into your role, where from a manufacturing organization standpoint, you are on the IT side. For somebody who does just not know manufacturing at all, who generally does IT report into?
Are you really looking at as a person or a role
Yeah.
within? It's a very good question that you ask, right? It all depends upon how the organization is structured. So in my experience, I have seen two different ways how the organizations have been structured. One is a functional based approach,
Okay.
and the other one is a product centric approach, right? In the functional, let me talk about the product based first, right? You have your core IT, which handles all your core back office digital technologies, and you have a business process expert, and then you have OT. All these are considered under one IT organization within the product centric design. When it comes to the functional centric design, I have seen the IT and OT are always being separate. Your OT function is always kept under the manufacturing operations, whereas your digital transformation, back office, supply chain applications always sits in the IT, and the programs run under the CIO.
Okay. And CIO is Chief Information Officer. I see titles like Chief Digitalization Officer coming up, etc. The new trend that I'm seeing, Raj, is that within an ID organization, there are people who really take care of like the infrastructure, networks, systems, etc., or even cybersecurity. And you have business applications where these are people who really understand a little bit of manufacturing. They may not really understand the infrastructure deeply, but then they really understand business tools. That's what. So where are you at? As a manufacturing leader, do you have to handle both, or you're doing one of them?
I'm doing more on the business app side. So I have peers who handle the infrastructure and other functional areas, but I'm more on back office, manufacturing, supply chain, procurement, and shared services.
Okay. So let's jump a little into that. I think you mentioned in the start that experience on the ERP. What does that acronym stand for?
Enterprise resource planning.
Okay. I know that there are a lot of tools that are out there. I think manufacturing has been kind of around for a long time. So what is changing? Like, this digital transformation as a new word. Software has been here for 30, 35 years, right? How should somebody listening to this podcast look at as to what's changed in the software that was a few years ago versus what is coming under digital transformation?
I think one big emphasis, what do you say, for seeing a really a LinkedIn post. What is the gold mine right now on this earth? What is most valuable thing on this earth today?
Data?
Yes, data. That's what it's changing. You used to have ERPs, integrated systems, as you said, from 2 to 3 decades. But right now, the heavy emphasis is on data, right? How you collect the data, how you visualize the data, how you get to the decision point by utilizing the data that you have. That's the whole big piece that's driving this entire digital transformation. People used to have reports, people used to look at the data, but now the way people are looking at the data, coming up with predictive analytics, prescriptive analytics, and being able to understand, hey, what is my next big thing based on how am I performing. So those are the things that are changed a lot, at least in the last decade or so. And now if you look at the whole AI thing, the generative AI, all these new things coming up, the data is playing a vital role into this whole schema of things. So that's the big change, I would say. The applications are always there, but how you're collecting the data, how you're looking at the data, how you're making sense out of that data are the three things I would say what have been changed.
It sounds like manufacturing also is becoming a technology company. How much of truth is there to that, Raj?
Every company on this earth want to become a tech company nowadays. It's not just manufacturing. Tesla is a tech company. Do you think it's a car company today? No, it's a tech company.
No.
If you ask Elon Musk, he says that it's a tech company. Manufacturers never used to think that way. The perception has changed. The leaders are taking the organizations to become more tech savvy organizations. It doesn't matter whether it's a manufacturing or whether it's a pharma or whatever the.
So we've not seen a lot of companies replicate what probably Tesla led by example and showed all of us. This is where I'm thinking in my mind, for those who are really not in information technology or tech industry every day, it's a curious question. Why is moving from the old ways of working or even just old systems to new, whether it is the cloud, adopting AI based tools, etc.? Why is such a big deal, Raj?
The biggest value prop is if you are not innovating, you will not be relevant anymore. Think about Kodak. Kodak used to hold 95% of market share in taking pictures and selling cameras. The reason why they became extinct is they were not inventing at the pace which the market is going, right? So you have to innovate to be more relevant to the current trends. So that's the whole motivating factor for all the leaders across all companies. They need to change. They need to bring in cloud. They need to innovate faster. Now, in order for them to innovate faster, they need more resources. They cannot be constrained. Biggest thing is on-prem, you are constrained of your resources. Now, you don't want to be constrained of resources. If you want to do a prototype, I should be able to do the prototype in the shorter frame of time. If I fail, I fail. Learn from it and then move to the next one. That's the pace at which the innovation is happening today. So in order for you to be relevant, yes, you need to do all this.
As you're speaking, I'm thinking of the many listeners is I don't even know in the iPhone age, many people have they even heard of the name Kodak.
Exactly.
It used to be a very large company. When I was a kid, my dad owned a Kodak camera, if I'm not wrong. Did you have one too?
Yep, yep. I used to have one. Yep. And I used to carry these bulky cameras in my neck. Whenever I used to go with the family trips, I still used to have cameras, but nowadays I don't even see people hanging their camera in their neck anymore. It's gone.
Yeah, awesome. My kids keep asking me, like, I have a DSLR. They keep asking me, why do you need a DSLR? You have an iPhone. I said, no, no, it still has its use. So, coming back to that whole shift from old to new, I'm sure, what are some of the challenges that you have run into, Raj?
From a people standpoint, right, there is always a resistance to adopt new technology. That's one of the biggest challenge I've always seen in any time you bring in new technology. As long as they realize that, hey, everything that I'm going to do from tomorrow, it's going to change. It's not the same. You always see that resistance, right? So that's the big thing from a change perspective. It's always people. So I always tend to start with people first in all my transformation.
So it's always about people, process, technology. If you figure out the people, then process and technology is the easy part.
Yep, that's my belief. I'm not saying that that's the only way, but I have figured out that magic worked in my experience, in my transformation initiatives. You make people on board, you bring the right people into the team, and you train them, you invest in them, and things start to change. And as long as the people are onboarded, yes.
Is there a link to this aspect and the talent shortage that we are having today in manufacturing or the people shortage in general?
I would say those are two different faucets. Right now, as long as the company is innovative, people doesn't mind whether it's a manufacturing firm or core IT firm or like a Google or a Microsoft. As long as you show the innovation, you show your vision to the people, I think people are not really worried about what kind of organization it is. It used to be like that because certain industries in the market, people used to have always have a perception that, oh, I don't want to do that job. Manufacturing used to be one of them. But if you go back to a couple of questions, right, customers are re-innovating their processes with robots, shop floor automation, all those innovations are, especially the fresh college graduates, they're more attracted to it. Here is one of the things I would say: people who love challenge, manufacturing is the best place to be. There are so many problems to solve in the manufacturing industry, both with technology, with process, with people. You could solve so many challenges over the course of last 2 decades working with multiple discrete manufacturing customers. Every customer is different. I mean, I have seen two cabinet manufacturers, but they have their own challenges. They're not alike. So I think things are changing. The perception is changing as companies are innovating. People are more receptive to these companies nowadays.
So, just for the listeners, I want you to touch a little upon everybody who is within manufacturing keeps telling that manufacturing is complicated. And Elon Musk said it somewhere in that design is easy, but manufacturing is hard. Can you go one step further? What is so complicated about manufacturing? Like, can you touch upon that?
I think the biggest challenge is the number of moving parts within the
Okay.
process is the complex thing. You have supply chain, you have procurement, you have forecasting, you have demand planning. Now you should have all the right resources in place, whether it's people resource or whether it's components or raw material. In order for all this to work, think about how many cross-functional work streams and teams should come together to make sure a finished good comes up end of the finish line, right? So that's where the complexity is. I mean, it's interconnected processes all the way from design, plan, produce, ship, and deliver to the customer.
Wow. As you were telling, I was trying to think as to, what's the analogy, I can give. And what came to my mind as I was listening to you was more like it's a Metallica or Pink Floyd concert where thousands of people are going to come. So you're putting a huge event together and it's just so dynamic.
Right.
So many moving parts, things
Yep.
could go wrong.
Yep.
And it sounds like, that's how a factory is. But it's just that, Metallica or a Pink Floyd concert will happen like, once in one place, but a factory is kind of doing it every day.
That's where I was so fascinated towards the manufacturing industry. As I said in my earlier point, the complexities arises when you try to bring all these together, make it work. and produce a finished good at the end of the line.
No wonder automation, in a way, is one of the biggest opportunities of the sectors is manufacturing. But I don't think it's related to replacing people, etc. Sure, redundant work might be replaced, but because of the sheer complexity, and I think from 8 billion in the next 2 decades, if you're going to become a 10 billion population, then whatever we are producing right now, we're only going to need it more. If we have talent shortage, the ramifications basically to the society are very large. So from a purpose standpoint, also there is a lot of purpose from a society and the world problems that we are seeing today attached there. So let's deep dive a little there, Raj. You mentioned that the talent problem basically is different, and I'm understanding that people who are already working today in the manufacturing space understand the manufacturing domain. So I think the need there is, how do you upgrade them to adopt these latest and the best digital tools? That's where change needs to be embraced. But if you think about the fresh talent that is available out in the market, people are looking for jobs. Yet we say there's shortage. Why don't you go a little deep into that and tell me as to what you are seeing, about this talent shortage, and what are some of the things that you've been doing there?
It's a very weird situation that right now, not only just manufacturing, everybody is in, right? There is an automation coming in, robots coming in. I always told people that all these are complement to the human work rather than replacing it, right? On one side, these companies are innovating and bringing these new technologies in. The other side, they have to find people who can complement these technologies. Let's say, example, today I have people doing a quality check manually. Somebody is going and picking and viewing the part manually, but I may have a machine do that where it can scan the part and it can identify the defective area. But now you need a person who can manage that machine. That's a new skill that you need, which doesn't exist. That's where the challenge comes in, right? So I may have moved the job of person picking manually and identifying the defective part, but now instead of that I need a newer skill and a person who can manage that machine. So that's a good example that I can give you where we are seeing a shortage, right? We need people with new skills that we did not see in the industry. That's where your shortage is coming from. We have two facets how we approach. One is invest more in our own people, so upskilling them, moving them to different roles, and providing them the necessary trainings to be able to take on that new role. So then the other side is we are going to younger generations, to universities, to bring in some fresh blood, young, smart, and dynamic people who can come in and learn these technologies and start to pick up those jobs. So it's also, as I said, the weird situation is right now, even if you go out, you don't find people with these skill sets anywhere. So even you have to get them, you have to train them, you have to upskill them and start putting them onto those roles.
When you go to the colleges, Raj, what's been your experience? The undergrads, etc. At least in my generation, it was all about the money. I keep hearing it's not about the money anymore for a 20-year-old. What are you seeing when you go to hire?
Here's one thing, this is funny that I heard this. They want cool technologies, they want cool companies. What worked for me personally when I go to these universities, right? As long as you can lay out your vision and tell them how innovative your company is, it doesn't matter which industry you are, but as long as you can excite them, they are willing to come and take that opportunity.
Awesome.
It's See, that's the other reason also, right? So every time, not just the grads, right? I've been interviewing a lot of people. The one of the question that I always get asked is, hey, as a company, where are you heading towards this latest technologies? What is your vision? For example, 2 weeks back I was talking to somebody. He's like, hey, are you even thought about adopting generative AI? What is your vision? Think about this. How many people do you think as a corporations have started even fully adopting generative AI? There are not that
Yeah.
many. Other than these big firms like Google, Microsofts, and Facebooks, Amazons, there are not that many companies. But the people want to listen your vision, where you as a leader are envisioning on these latest technologies. As long as you're able to make them visualize, people are willing to take the opportunities.
So, when you're talking about the vision, especially from a manufacturing standpoint, it seems to me if there's a very good opportunity to innovate and change where the organization is today and where it can be, I feel the younger generation is always looking. If there's so much there, then I feel they feel a sense of purpose that they were part of something. I feel that today. I'm sure, isn't that your experience now working for so long in manufacturing?
Yep, yep. You know what? I make pain as a fun. Especially that's what the younger generation wants, right?
Yeah.
That's how I try to do it. Personally, too, when there is a challenge, I take it as a fun activity, and that makes me motivated to go and chase and solve it. I try to do that when I talk to the people, when I interview them. I also try to paint them the challenges that makes them see, oh, okay, how much bigger opportunity I have here.
Yeah.
That also a lot of times motivates the people to come and join you.
Awesome. So, there's a lot of talk about industrial automation in general, whether it is information technology, operational technology, robots, etc. And I hear all the terms that are going on in the manufacturing world, whether it is smart manufacturing, Industry 4.0, just the future factory, etc. For listeners who are very new to this, how does this actually play out in real life, in simple words?
That's a whole topic and our topic by itself, if you really ask me. I've always told people it's a very tricky, interconnected concept that really revolutionize these sectors. The whole IoT, automation, especially manufacturing, logistics, and supply chain. So it's, again, it's all about automation.
Maybe I can rephrase it, right? If it is so large, we'll probably do another episode on it. What's the one thing that everybody could do right now to move towards automation? What would your advice be, since you are already a little ahead, in that journey?
Identify high impact, low investment opportunity and try it out, do a pilot, start from there instead of going and investing millions of dollars. I would say start slowly. Again, it's a fancy toy on the shelf, right? Everybody want to go and grab it. Start something high impact area and prove it out and then expand on it.
Great. Um, awesome. As you're sharing just so many interesting things with automation, I think you touched a little bit that data is the new oil. Data can be overwhelming. It's just especially for companies who can afford it and don't think about money, but think about competitive edge, and who are just early adopters. They just go and get the digital tools that they need. The amount of data manufacturing produces is just too much. So how are you managing data at American Woodmark to make sure it's useful and drives better decisions?
So I'll go back to first what I have done as always, right? You're right. Manufacturing produces tons of data, but I would always start with assess your needs. What is your actual need? Where do you want to focus on? And then identify what is the source of it. Like let's say, hey, my focus is to improve the productivity on the manufacturing line, right? So identify what is the source of that data. When you know what is your needs and what is the source, then you go and pull the right tools in so that you can collect them and utilize that data. This is where your earlier question comes in, right? When I'm saying choosing the right tools, the data collection tools is like you may talk about IoT platforms,
Yeah.
right? For the real-time data collection, or data integration tools that aggregates the data that you're getting from all these IoT platforms. Coming into the data storage solution. So now you have the collection, you have the storage, and then the last, what are the analytic tools that I use with all this data that I'm collecting? So that's the kind of a logical approach that I would take. As I said, right, even if you have terabytes, pegabytes of data, but if you don't know what your need is, it's all useless. So always start with assessing what your needs are.
I'm guilty basically even in my company, right? When you have data, the whole discipline is again an issue that, hey, is the data right or not? So what's your advice? How can people get a handle on their data? If somebody has never done it before, at least a lot of manufacturers that are out there that either would have machines or they would have some systems that they've been using for a long time and data is just lying there. What would be the one thing that you'd say to get a hold of your data?
I think you should have implement a clear standards. For example, if you look at manufacturing, your item data goes across the application portfolio that you have. right?
Yeah. Item data is nothing but whatever I'm seeing, let's say in Home Depot or Lowe's.
Like a SKU, like a
SKU,
SKU.
okay. SK, okay.
Yeah, you have to establish your data standards, right?
Hmm.
What is your data quality criteria, and document those and socialize those with the right stakeholders within. The latest term that a lot of companies are adopting is data stewards. They're bringing up this role called data stewards who are part of this data governance model. So implement that data governance model, designated data steward who can manage the quality of and integrity of the data within their specific domains. Utilize your data validation techniques with your automated validations or people manually reviewing it. All this will come into good when you invest in training. So invest in training on your people, and then set up your KPIs and monitor the data over the time to make sure that how things are flowing.
A lot of data is collected, and not just manufacturers, right? Even in non-manufacturers, they straight away jump into BI tools or any sort of analytics. What you are stating is it's not just simple that you collected your data and just put it into analytics, it started working. Especially in manufacturing, you kind of need to organize it. You also may need to clean it up. This it's a new job title, right? I did not hear there was something called data steward. Now that you're telling me, I think that might be a good keyword, for anybody applying for a job to say, hey, how do I become a data steward? What are the skills that I take that? And, it might be easier for them to land up a job in manufacturing for sure, given you're saying it's so important. Ultimately, to get knowledge and wisdom, what you're saying is that let's organize the information, have it disciplined so that the knowledge that comes out of wisdom is trustworthy.
Spot on. I'll tell you one personal example, right? If you don't have the right quality of data, and if you're taking that in front of either your customer, your end user, or your business stakeholder, once they start not trusting it, it's very hard to make them adopt, right? So we need to make sure that the data quality is to utmost, that people can start trusting it, adopting it, using it to make some critical decisions. That's why the steps that I was talking about, your data governance, data standards, validation techniques, all will come into play. That will increase the trust in the data, and you can make better decisions for your business.
It seems like anybody out there learning any tools around data in the tech space would be probably very ripe candidates to look at manufacturing as an industry sector, to explore a career in. Would that be fair to say, Raj?
Oh, yes, that's the hot topic right now in manufacturing. If people want to get into the predictive maintenance, prescriptive maintenance, demand planning, forecasting with their existing data, that skill will come into a big play if you want to do all these things in a right way and take that data and make the right decisions to take your business to the next level.
Awesome. So before we wrap up, let's leave the listeners with a couple of practical takeaways. So whether someone is a newcomer or a seasoned manufacturing leader, what's the one piece of advice you would give more for them at a personal and a career level as they navigate their own journey, Raj?
I think the big thing I would say is foster innovation, right? I know with the beginning we are talking about how these manufacturing firms are, how they are evolving. That fostering innovation will play a big way in your role. So encourage that culture of innovation, invest in technology, and then develop a skilled workforce. Always focus on training and development, encourage cross trainings. I would say these are some of the key things for the leaders or anybody who wants to come into manufacturing industry. I mean, innovation is happening at a faster phase than ever before in the manufacturing industry.
For a undergrad or a high schooler, is there some topic that you'd say, hey, just go and learn this? What would that be?
My favorite topic I learn about data. Learn the skills to be able to read data, analyze the data, and be able to tell a story with the data. If you learn these three things, you have an opportunity.
Is storytelling something that you would also recommend that manufacturing leaders should do more?
Storytelling with data. Yep.
Awesome. Well, with that, we leave to all our listeners this question: what are you doing with your data? If you're a manufacturer, do you have a data strategy? If you have a data strategy, what's the business outcome that you're looking for? We sign off this episode of Growth Unplugged with Raj here. Thank you, Raj, for being here with us.
Thanks for having me, Nikhil.